This
Cool.
call is
Okay.
being recorded.
Hey, Drew, how are you?
Good, man. Trying to stay warm. Cold out.
It is December in New York City, December 20th to be exact. Just for reference, Patrick, am speaking with Drew De Leon. He's a legend in and of himself.
Huh.
He is the founder of Blank Label Records, boutique creative agency slash management, talent management company slash artist development firm slash music publishing company slash everything that's gonna make an artist better.
Yes.
Do you have any more slashes to add to that?
It's a hyphenated world. There's more hyphens,
Touche.
more opportunities.
Fair enough. I believe that. So how's your day? What's going on? Before we get into more serious things, I've been going to a lot of holiday parties lately. Sorry, I didn't go to your holiday party lately, actually. But
Oh yeah,
how's life?
no worries. Yeah, man. Definitely last week and a half was like kind of like let's take care of all the holiday parties. For all the different like brands I've collaborated with over the past year, and just to kind of just celebrate, what we've done this past year. And right now it's kind of winding down. So for me, it's just like, thank you. No more events for the next 2 weeks.
Right. For a little bit at
uh,
least. Well, I mean, you have the big one this weekend if that's what you celebrate. But yeah,
yeah, I mean
no.
that's more family, yeah, for sure.
I'd like to know a little bit more about you, myself personally as well. How did you start? And actually, first, what do you do? Let's say you have a day to day. What do you do?
Uh
And then
huh.
how did you get to that point?
Yeah, I mean, for me, just to give you some background, so I'm the owner, founder, um, and also brand director for Blank Label Records. So, what does that mean? I mean, you know, unlike traditional labels, it's kind of a hybrid between an agency, kind of a creative agency for branding, kind of meets music label, but within the independent scene. So for me, it's like, I have my client side where, I have clients from different types of artists that are looking for different things. So one particular client I'm working with, he's a hip hop artist. So I'm basically branding, his image, like rebranding it from
What's
designing
his
his
name?
logos, Tito Montana. So he's a rapper from Poughkeepsie. And this is just a client, this isn't someone that's necessarily signed to us, but like I said,
Okay,
we
cool.
offer consulting services because we're not going to turn that down,
Right.
if the opportunity is right. So usually artists, when they come to us for certain things, because they're very specific, we figured it'd be, fair where it's like, okay, this is what you're looking for exactly. What are your deliverables? How fast do you need them, and what's your budget? Because you can't just like, what I've learned is that, when you invest in artists, it's it's something where it's like, okay, you see serious upside as
Mhm.
opposed to like, okay, these person have kind of like short term needs that you can kind of fix, but obviously at a cost. So
Right.
those are the two things, like, from the agency side where we actually consult artists, and from their branding side, and then from the real traditional music side is like really invest in artists. So we have one artist that we invest in, which is more of a long term opportunity. His name is Confidence. So we do a lot of, reach outs from day to day, just making sure like, for example, like we're currently part of this campaign that we released a single this past week. So we're just been pushing content out, just making sure his social media is up to date. And at the same time too, we also represent a songwriter and also a producer. So, that's the publishing side. So what that means is like, from a writer who has a song, we can actually pitch his music to other artists that, maybe have more of a bigger platform, like a major label artist, or we
Hashtag
can
Drake.
actually
Just kidding.
license his music. Yeah, exactly. Hashtag Drake. Yeah, exactly. Those are the opportunities. And then from a licensing standpoint, like your favorite TV show, if you may hear one of our songs. So the publishing is more of an,
So how does that
a
work?
big
Is it
revenue to opportunity.
so I had so many questions. I don't know why I stopped there, but
Uh huh.
when it comes to something like that, is does that come from your network or like your kind of effort and grind and hustling and reaching out to all these kind of sync platforms? Because I know that lots of people, not lots of people, but X amount of people do sell music to TV shows and movies and
Mhm.
other things like that. But how does I've always been curious, how does that process start? Is it like a cold calling business like everything else, or is it you somehow gotten into the industry and you know the right people who are able to say yes or no depending on what the situation is?
Yeah, I mean, a lot is based off relationships and then referrals. So, and also obviously the product. I mean, the product has to speak for itself. So if the
Right.
music ain't right, then they're not
Because that was
emailing you back.
because that was the point of that question. Because it's like I bet everybody would love to just send music to a TV network, to HBO or Stars or something like that.
Right.
It must be very difficult. Um, but anyways, cool.
Yeah.
So um, that's very interesting. Why? How do you choose who you invest in? Like, why confidence? Because I noticed I watched. I went to an event that you had.
Mhm.
His release party for Ricochet. Great song, by the
Right.
way. And I noticed his
Thank you.
style, and I noticed how he carried himself. His
Mhm.
confidence, whatever. But how did you choose him, and how much did he come with, and how much did you bring?
Well, the reason I chose him is because, just being around artists over the years, like I just, he kind of checked out all the boxes. I mean, one, he's
Mm,
talented.
right.
Um, but it's not only that, obviously, the work ethic, but for me, it's really about the professionalism because, everyone wants to be an artist and they say they do, but it's like everyone wants to be a basketball player, but there's only
Right.
a handful of NBA players. It's like, what are you willing to do to make sure this is the thing that you're going to do for the rest of your life? You know,
Right. Okay.
it's one of those things where it's like, are you on time? Like, are you rehearsing? Are you taking care of your body? Are you being conscious of your style? Or, like you got to really be an artist 24/7. It's not like only when you're performing. You know,
Right.
um, it's like you have some people that just kind of like, okay, I'll be an artist when I want to, but
Mm.
that's not, you're not gonna go anywhere. Um, so I think that's what he brings. He brings not only the
So,
talent, the work ethic, but the professionalism.
to anybody who might be listening, at some point it's probably gonna be six people. Maybe it'll be more in the future.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
does that mean that the Bobby Schmurders and designers of the world weren't actually one-hit wonders? They were grinding hard, or I mean, obviously you may not know the real situation, or or maybe they did get lucky. Because I think that a lot of people get these impressions by hearing these like great songs and it comes out.
Mhm.
But I've spoken to a couple of people who've been part of some of those processes, and those guys did work hard. I mean, they got lucky that they had a one-hit wonder, but they're working a long time for that to actually happen. So, what's your take on that? Do you think that's true, or do you think that maybe sometimes someone just does get lucky every once in a while?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not necessarily. I mean, luck is what when time means opportunity, something like that.
Mhm.
So I think I'm not gonna. I don't know enough about them to figure out what their work ethic is, but definitely about timing, and also just like this just the product itself. A lot of people who are kind of like the gatekeepers, they probably pushed it out like this is going to be the song of the summer. A
Right.
radio station was like, okay, this is going to be the song, so that's why it became a viral hit. Or you know, for example, like a Panda, it was kind of like the song of 2016 at some point,
Mhm.
because everyone just started playing it, and it's one of
Well,
those things where it's like, yeah.
from my perspective, I remember hearing that because someone said this guy sounds just like Future, and we were
Future.
thinking, oh wow, is this Future? And I was like, oh, this is just whatever, some guy who sounds like Future. I wasn't really interested
Mhm.
because it was a great song, but I thought, oh, it's just a guy who
Right.
sounds like Future. But then it kept going
Right.
on and on and on and on. And I was like, wow, this
Right.
is amazing. And
Right.
then I hear more cooler things about him, and I hear he's got a great
Mhm.
personality, and he really wants
Yeah.
it, and then it makes you want to root for him. you know.
Yeah.
So it's like how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think that's great for an artist, but to be honest, I mean, I'd rather be the artist that actually really develops true fan base over time, like J. Cole. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like really grind. That's why he can come out with albums with no features because he really built his fan base, But he
Right.
also had great product. Like, it's like sometimes it's like because we're living in kind of a now generation, so everything that's hot now is what people want and what people like. Um, and unfortunately, like for an artist that may only have one really good song, how do you come back with that? How do you really come back and be like, hey, this is even a better song because the expectations are so high? That's a lot of pressure, you know.
That's why they have people like you who are able to lead them through that. So going back to what I originally asked, how did you get to Blank Label? You know, music in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, why? What's your why? I guess.
Well, it's funny because no one gave me a handbook. I mean, just to give you some background, I come from a finance background. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Um, I used to work. I worked for an investment bank right out of college, and I thought it would be the right thing to do because obviously,
New York City.
living in New York City, raising up, being raised in Queens, like being having the opportunity to live in a city that's like, when you're like 22 is an eye opener. It's like, oh wow, I'm 22, I'm making this money, and I'm living in Battery Park
Right.
City, you know.
Hmm.
So my thing was, it was like a great opportunity, but really not
She
really
wanted.
what fulfilled me. Yeah, it didn't fulfill me. I knew I wanted something else. So I decided to leave, pursue some, creative opportunities. Decided to work for my friend's design agency for a little bit, and at that time, my friend who was a DJ just started and needed kind of support. I basically followed him around from different locations just to support him, and then one thing led to another, where I was kind of like booking his gigs, and then eventually I was like his designated manager. I didn't know what to do. All I knew was business. I knew how to connect people. I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to write emails and stuff. So, but
Right.
working at the design agency, I also learned how to brand. So I learned how to brand his business card. When MySpace was big, like really kind of like make that look good, and his electronic press kit, his EPK. So when we sent that out, people were like taking him legit, like, okay, cool, he has representation. So this is not some Joe Schmo trying to DJ. Like he's
Right.
actually being
Doing something.
represented.
Yeah.
But yeah, and after that, I started working with recording artists, and then I thought to myself, like the whole idea of like branding something from nothing, like really kind of like this kind of blank canvas, like kind of creating something from nothing. So one day I was just kind of like, you know, meditating, kind of just zoning out, and one day I was like, blank blank label. Blank label. No, blank label. Then,
I heard that's how it
I was
works,
like,
though.
like blank label. It's it represents because I would name that represented something that I could say like wasn't just a name. Like
Yeah,
I didn't
it
just
meant
like come up
something.
with a name just because it sounded cool. Like there's a deeper meaning to it, and it became a platform, a collaborative platform for artists where would collaborate with, really build their brands from scratch, or
Right.
build it where we would like really have an opportunity to collaborate and create something cool. So
So what
blank label,
made
2009.
you did it? You did it. And what makes I guess now I kind of want to talk about some of the stuff you know as an entrepreneur and as a label owner. You know, what are some
Mhm.
things that people should be looking to do when they're just starting the music career? You know, or when they're trying to. You know, let me ask a more specific question. How does
Mhm.
somebody get their first 1,000 fans?
I think it's about like anything, like a relationship. You want to be able to be one, consistent, communicative, engaging, and this is different for every platform. You know, It's not like, hey, I'm gonna do the same thing for Instagram. I'm gonna do the same thing for Facebook. So for example, let's say you're a new artist, and then you're a singer, and you have this project coming out in 6 months, right? But you don't really have a fan base yet. So maybe one suggestion is, okay, let me do something for my fans because, or potential fans, because I want to give them something, a piece of me. So I'm gonna create some covers. Maybe I'll do a weekly cover a week where I'll share a 1 minute video because only 1 minute is allotted in Instagram, and I'll make this like my Friday. So every Friday I'm gonna dedicate this to the people that support me and for the potential people that may see it. So creating content consistently, um, and then just kind of understanding that you have to engage with these people. You can't just be like my stuff and not even comment on stuff that they actually. You're like, hey, this was a really great video. This is your opportunity to really get to know some of the people that you may have never met before.
Okay, so
So
let me.
really grow it. Grow the people. It's going to take time, but those are some opportunities. Even with aside from the digital stuff, I think email marketing is kind of really knowing like, okay, I have these emails where I can directly contact and communicate with these people. Like, sometimes when you post stuff in the internet, like it just gets lost.
Yeah.
Because you're not really directing it to anyone. But when you email someone, it's just like they're gonna get it. You
So
know.
that goes back to something I was thinking about. There are people who could um, do an email marketing campaign, and there are people who can do a Facebook ad campaign. And then
Mhm.
there are people who are talented and are either too shy to do that,
Mhm.
or too, or just ignorant, not in a bad sense, but just they just don't know.
Right.
Um, and then there are people who do both of those things, and they're just not the best talent. So, like,
Mhm.
how do you hone great, talented people who might just be a bit insecure about their talent or something like that? Like, do you have to be an artist, or how do you get that person to finally say, you know what, maybe I will stop being a financier, and I'm gonna, you know, invest in my dream. I mean, everybody has their own path,
Mhm.
but are there maybe outlets that someone can go to? Do you personally go to any meetups? Any Are there any like communities that kind of inspire other artists? At least in New York City, to just kind of be themselves, be free, learn tips. And then,
Mhm.
sorry, I asked lots of multi-ended questions, but then, what's the proper budget an independent artist should have? Like, I'm just starting. I have a little bit of a project. I don't know how to do anything. I can't do anything too crazy. But what's the basics
Mhm.
that I need to invest in for myself?
Right. So I think first thing, I mean, I definitely would invest in looking for like, let's say meetups, just traditional meetups, but definitely events that involve music. Obviously, Eventbrite has a bunch of events. Even
Mm.
like these platforms called Do NYC, where they have like, let's say Spotify has an event and it's like free. Like
Right.
they should definitely be scrounging and kind of looking at Eventbrite because they have a bunch of things going on. But in terms of just kind of meeting artists and getting inspired, I'm actually working on a platform called the Digitalog, Digital Dialogue, where I
Mm.
basically create a workshop. I started in August and created a music and tech workshop with my partner Medvis from Culture.com because we wanted to really inspire young producers, young songwriters to, just kind of get involved, get some insight because a lot of my friends are very talented, but
Right.
we kind of share something similar because a lot of us didn't necessarily have these opportunities when we first got in. So I want to kind of build that community because I think the music tech education space, is
Mm.
important, especially with all the changes in technology, whatever is happening in this world. Music has a big hand in it, and I think we actually write a weekly newsletter just to update people on what's going on. You don't have to, shift through, your Twitter feed. It's like we basically curate 4 to 5 articles every week just to inform people that this is what's going on in the industry. You should read this.
So,
Um,
so the reason I wanted to do this little podcast is a similar sentiment. And I went to St. John's, where J. Cole went, and I noticed
huh?
that there are a lot of kids that like music. There are so many people I've met just in class at parties, just hanging out, just randomly. Oh, I have the EP out. There are so
Mhm.
many people. I honestly believe St. John's is a little music mecca. And
Oh,
they some of
yeah.
these groups would have all these on campus little showcases that maybe six people
Mhm.
would go to, but like they would
Right.
do it and they try so hard, but they didn't have a place where they congregated because they were also, you know, doing pharmacy or, doing something else with this life, or just didn't really think it was a viable dream. So where do you find people like this? How do they find you? Like, because I think that's the hardest thing. Because I don't think there's a deficit in the demand of people that
Mhm.
want to learn these skills, but I
Right.
don't think there is enough like explicit, excuse me, kind of outlets of artists who say this is where I congregate when they're also other people. They're not just artists because I think you can always find the hardcore music heads. But
Right.
how are you going to expand this so that anybody who has some sort of musical inkling can just follow on and say, "Oh, that makes sense," and then they cite Drew DeLeon in the future as the person
Mhm.
who connected them with their dream. Because that's how most things happen. You always have these random people who do great things in life, and they'll say, "Oh, it was, I went to this workshop and it inspired me." So how are you going to find the people who aren't calling out for you?
Yeah, for me, the great thing about the music community is that it's actually smaller than you think. Um,
Okay.
for the people that are doing are like-minded, um, they're gonna find them. They're gonna find each other. Like I've met multiple people that know people that I know, just because we involve ourselves or we make an effort to be part of those circles, or we go to an event, or we took the extra time to come to a workshop, or you know,
Right.
like it's not just about kind of waiting for these opportunities to come because they think, oh, it's like, I don't know anyone. I was like, well, you have to put yourself out there. You can't just like expect things to come to you. Um, and I think that's something that I always kind of push artists is like, not only are you an artist, but you're also your own brand. You gotta be able to network with people. You gotta be able to talk to people. Talk about your music. You can't just be like, I'm an artist. I'm gonna like sit in the corner and kind of look cool. Like you really have to like really just kind of speak about your passions, and then if you believe in it, people will believe in you. It's like this is real. It's like you're not really selling it. It's like more like you're really showcasing what your music best represents. It's like, and they're gonna get a taste of that from your personality. Like, oh wow, this guy is cool. I'm gonna take a listen to his music. You know, something like that. But yeah, I think for everyone that's starting, you got to go out there. You got to put yourself out there.
So, um, it's been about 20x minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want
Mm-hmm.
to close on a few more tangible notes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is music publishing?
So publishing is like anything. Okay, let's talk about the idea of publishing. The publishing is being able to create multiple versions of it, right? So it's like when a book gets published, it's like Harry Potter. You have what, millions of that same book. Well, that's the same thing of a song. It's like how many times can we license this song? How many times can the song be played? Like, it's like the Christmas song. Like Mariah Carey's Christmas song that gets played every Christmas. Like that's
Oh
publishing
wow,
because
yeah, you're getting
because the
something for it.
label, yeah, you're getting something for it because it's just any type of licensing opportunity where it's that you're gonna get um you know future revenue based off its um number of plays. It's one of those type of situations where you're sleeping and you're making money. Um, because that's the great thing about music. It's like you're not really creating a new version of the song. It's just more just like you know you're gonna put one version of the song in a commercial. So maybe you're gonna do a ringtone for a telephone, for your cell phone, or you're gonna get the instrumental to be used for, let's say, a movie. So any way that you can license and make money on a song, that's what publishing is. Like, that's why it's still a big part of the revenue. Especially generation especially for labels
So how does an
and
artist
artists.
make money these days if they can't um, really sell a digital product, but they can publish it, um,
Mhm.
which some people don't know
Um.
can come for free off of
Yeah.
these PRO organizations and whatnot. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so
And
what's your what?
yeah. I mean, with PROs, just to clarify, PROs, they track where your songs are going. If you register it, let's say if you register it to like a BMI, you know, basically they're tracking. Once you register, let's say the song "Happy," you register the song "Happy." Um, you know who wrote it, you know who produced it. You add their accounts. Okay, so Joe wrote it and Adam produced it. Great. So basically, with publishing, is like there's 100% writing and there's 100% composition. So altogether, it should be 200%. But
Oh
at
wow,
some
okay.
scenarios, there's multiple writers, multiple producers. So
Right.
basically, you're splitting everything within 100% for each of them. One from the writer's side, one from the producer's side.
And the
Um,
publisher as well, right?
yeah, and the publisher, there could be a sub-publisher, like let's say you're using a sample, right? So 10% of that song is being sampled. So let's say, um, you know, Drew Publishing, they're going to use a percentage of the writing because of the composition because they use a sample. So, but usually it's divvied up through individual writers or producers. Um,
Okay.
and then yeah, I mean from the publishing side, that's what really kind of the makeup of that because a lot of people just don't understand that you can make money through publishing. It's just a matter of like understanding what it is. But from an artist standpoint, that's really in this new day and age of 2017 right now, as we're about to embark. It's about creating a live show that's going to be able to create a great experience for your fans because people still pay for live shows. I really look at songs more as kind of appetizers, free appetizers, because music, you just have to understand the concept of what music is and how you listen to it. Well, you're going to listen to it for free, yes, but you will pay for a show. You will buy merchandise, you know.
Speaking of live
And you,
shows, I did. Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, no worries.
I did a random stint doing event production for a couple of years, and also another thing that someone else mentioned is that uh, bars and are open sometimes on Monday nights, and so like one time I just got a up and coming artist an opportunity to perform on an off night. And yeah, the bar owner, wanted cash. They wanted some things, but they were able to negotiate a situation. I didn't have to
Hmm.
promote because I'm always bad at promotion. I can't bring anybody to do anything I want. But I was able to, set up that thing, and I realized that if anybody is an artist, no matter how good they are, if they have a couple
Hmm.
friends, they can just
Right.
negotiate a night at a random venue and say, "Hey, I'll try to bring 10 people out who pay $10 each, or maybe I'll do it for free and I'll, put something down and we'll do a business transaction." I don't know, but in
Right.
terms of making shows, hey, you don't have to like be booked necessarily. It always helps because you
No.
don't want to always have to front your own kind of existence. But if
Right.
you can have the talent that someone will pay for, that's great. But if you don't yet, you can just do it yourself, kind of. You really can. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. You could do it yourself. You could be one of your friends, you and your friends performing,
mhm.
and then you don't necessarily make it a showcase. It's like Adam and his friends
Right.
performing
And
tonight.
then your friends might be more inclined to come actually, because like, oh, I'm gonna hang out and see what Adam's doing. But and the second random plug is that it's already too late now, but TechStars just created a music tech accelerator. So I was gonna kind of ask, like, if you had to create music technology product for the future, whatever you're willing to say, I guess, what would that be? What's your plan? What's your idea?
Um, well, the accelerator in LA, right? Lost the one in Los Angeles.
Yeah, yeah, they just
Um,
closed their applications, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, for me, it's funny because I'm kind of what I've learned from their presentations really kind of is VR and chatbot space. So
Yeah.
kind of understanding, where chatbots um really, where their places in kind of consumer behavior and messaging. So,
Interesting.
how people respond to them because obviously that's, AI, right? Artificial intelligence and trying to understand, just knowing that, chatbots aren't human and just always
Right.
expecting that, but, how do we utilize the chatbots to one, make it more interactive for a potential fan that may let's say for example, let's say Patrick, you have an album coming out, right?
Mhm.
And using this chatbot, you want to like kind of like lead people, like give them some appetizers. So maybe you create a game where this chatbot asks, you to like come up with these different quizzes or like these different like kind of games where you can win prizes, try to get tickets or to your show or like maybe get a free album. Make it very just like simple and interactive, but it's really through a messaging app, which is kind of generating these things that are pre-programmed. Um, but I think that's something
Like
interesting.
Superphone.
Yeah, it's just something interesting, a little bit more interactive. But I want to dive too deep
Right.
into it. It's more
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah.
you it's just like you want to lead people to the actual thing. So okay, so
Right.
after 3 minutes of like interacting with this chatbot, like now I want to like listen to this EP. Like let's go.
Right.
It's like okay, cool. I'm done playing games. And then from the VR standpoint, like I think VR obviously made some major strides this year. With all like these different activations that brands have been kind of like
Mhm.
been jumping on and all these like
2016 was the year for VR in a sense, actually. But yeah, anyways, keep going.
yeah, VR, AR. So I think VR is still, still new to people.
Yeah.
Because the idea of just being in this virtual space is, it's also a matter of like how long can you be in this space, you know.
Right.
But I think from a music standpoint, I think it's, incredible that you can do a lot of great things from being in a
Concerts.
place where you can, yeah, concerts, um, even music videos and content
Nice.
videos and even like just creating music um using the virtual space. And there's
Yeah.
these different different platforms like the HTC Vive that allow you to create stuff, like really create stuff from scratch. These different worlds, these virtual worlds. So, it's still new and I'm still learning a lot about it, but I think that 2017 there's going to be a lot more VR opportunities for artists.
Last question.
Mhm.
What piece of advice do you have, or would you give to any artist entering the game, maybe even established artists? But what piece of advice would you give to someone who, was looking to be an
Piece of
artist?
advice. Well, I think one is you got to ask yourself, are you gonna do you want this more than your ability to breathe? Like, do you want this? Because if you ask yourself, because you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot. That's all I'm gonna say. It's like time that you want to spend with friends, time where you're gonna want to spend with that significant other, time where you can spend with family, and things that other people do normally.
Mhm.
But because you love it so much, this is the life you've chosen. So you got to ask yourself that because that's the difference between great and good. you know, like you're talented, cool, you got a nice voice, but that doesn't necessarily make you an artist. Yeah,
Right. Awesome.
you're a great
Thank you so
singer.
much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Was that cool?
nah, this was amazing. Thank you, Drew DeLeon. I'm actually going to connect in a second right after this, but you're the best. Blank Label Records. Check out Confidence Ricochet. On iTunes, all the markets you can find it on Spotify, etc. And yeah, I really appreciate your time. I hope people appreciate your advice. Have a great night.
uh, Thanks.